All right, everyone, good morning. So happy to see you all here today. Thank you for being here. Welcome to our members and to those are hopefully going to soon be members if you're not. I'd like to take a minute and just recognize the electeds in the room here today. We have the Monterey Peninsula Water Management District Director, Amy Anderson. Seaside City Council member Dave. We have Monterey City Council member, also a DWMC board member, Kim Barber, Dr. Kim Barber. We have Monterey Water District Director, also Karen Hall. Also, Monterey Peninsula Water Management District Director George Riley. I think I've got all of our electeds. If I forgot anyone, then please stand up or let us know you're here. Wait, what was that? Oh, right, yeah, our guest of honor. So suspense, you took my breath away and my words went with it. Okay. We have supervisors, of course, Glenn Church and Mary Adams. So thank you for being here. I'd like to jump into a little bit of announcements. We are really encouraging our members to start working with our board on committees. We have some exciting things that we're planning, and so if you would be interested, we would love to have you, and if you'd like to learn more, one of our board members would happily sit down with you and share with you the directions we're going, as well as get your feedback. So you can reach out to us at info@dwmc.org. Also, of course, if you have any suggestions, we have a suggestion box by the check-in, a suggestion bucket actually, Margie's got it. So feel free, they will really want to hear from you and hear your voice and thoughts. Also, some upcoming events. On Thursday, August 31st, from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. in the Community Center at Soper Field in Seaside, we'd like to encourage you to attend a dinner and discussion hosted by the Monterey Black Caucus as part of their community conversations on the state of Black America. This event will be called Black August, and it's an opportunity to reflect, study, honor, and take action on African American community priorities in the U.S. Again, that's Thursday, August 31st from 6 to 8. And you will see on the DWMC website under events, you'll see more information about it there. So I encourage you to check it out. I know that some of us will be there for sure. Also, perhaps one of the most important and exciting events we have is we will be celebrating our 20th anniversary as the DWMC. So first of all, there are a number of founders in the room. So thank you for all of your incredible grassroots organization work and the incredible work you've done to support But if you would like to stand or raise your hand, we would love to be able to honor you, at least for the moment in this way, and more honors to come. Oh, come on. Seeing you at our 20th anniversary as a sustainability event. Sorry, I didn't mean to make you all blush. Okay. We'll be having our sustainability event on September 24th, and there's actually information. There's flyers on your table, which you can see. They look like this. And for those of you who are unfamiliar, there is a QR code on the bottom here, which means you take your camera on your phone, focus it on that, and it will take you to the website. And with that, though, I'm going to turn this now over to Laura Abelheider, who's going to tell you a little bit more about what's coming up for our event.
Let me ask you, how many of you got your invitation for this sustainability event in the mail? Okay, because we know the Salinas report event is a limited attendance.
Okay. So we are honoring 5 women in
probably saw that as well. Mrs. Sylvia Pinetta for her work with Monterey County Reads, an incredible program that she put together. And then our legislator, Anna Pajaro, for her work, Tanya Costa and Dr. Laura Solario for their fabulous community service work. And then the last person is Rosalind Green for her work in the civic arena of our county. And so those women really are going to be drawing a large crowd, and we want you all to come and celebrate their achievements on behalf of Monterey County. So we have a big fun day planned. We have a pretty lively auction. Those of you who were there last year know it was quite a fun one. And then these award ceremonies, we have a fabulous menu, which we're going to show you. But you can definitely register. We have more information back at the back counter too if you need more detail. So hoping to see you there. Hoping you'll see.
We're very excited to have our two supervisors with us today. Before we begin though, I'd like to talk a little bit about today's subject. So today's discussion is going to be addressing the global phenomenon which ties into the WMC platforms of sustainability and equity. When we talk about sustainability, we're referring to the goal of achieving sustainable global society, which is rooted in building a culture of peace. To achieve this requires having the courage to transcend the us versus them mentality, and to create policies which reflect the interdependence of economic and social systems in alignment with care for the environment. This entails fostering respect for nature and the Earth's ecosystem, as well as universal human rights, socioeconomic equality, and justice. As per our platform on equity, this includes supporting gender equity as defined as the fairness or treatment for persons of all gender identities according to their respective needs. So equity encompasses equal pay, equal rights, and equal opportunity. It includes equal treatment, that is the treatment that they may be different, but is considered equivalent in terms of rights, benefits, obligations, and opportunities. So when we consider the issues being discussed today, those of climate change, atmospheric rivers, and how they impact our communities, specifically the atmospheric rivers, we have to consider a few things when we listen to our speakers. How do we build a future that takes our current environmental reality into account while creating and building a county in which all people can thrive? How do we foster well-being? What policies need to be created or changed so that we can accomplish these goals? As I am about to turn this over in a moment to our President, Ana Velasquez, I would like to share with you, assuming Amy is working, a video which will just give you a quick overview on atmospheric rivers. Just one minute.
Imagine a river in the sky with more than twice the water of the Amazon. It's called an atmospheric river. Atmospheric rivers are long, narrow bands of concentrated water vapor that produce major amounts of rainfall. Atmospheric rivers begin in the warm waters of the Pacific, where water evaporates into the air. When this humid air meets a Pacific storm, the water vapor is concentrated and driven toward the coast, becoming fireworks of rainfall and wind. Once the atmospheric river reaches the coastal mountains and the inland Sierra, the collision squeezes additional rain and snow from the system. Atmospheric rivers are responsible for up to half of California's annual precipitation. Scientists at Scripps Institution of Oceanography have developed a new system that rates atmospheric rivers on a scale from 1 to 5. The rating system helps identify atmospheric rivers that are beneficial, such as those that replenish reservoirs, and ones that produce hazards like flooding. Understanding atmospheric rivers is key to improving weather forecasts for better managing water resources and predicting flood risk.
Okay, I just wanted to give you a quick overview so you have a little bit of an understanding of what we encountered last winter, and then that sort of sets the framework, I hope, for our supervisors. But with that, I'm going to invite DWMC President Ana Velasquez up to introduce our speakers.
Well, thank you. Now that we know about atmospheric rivers, and I think we learned about that last year throughout the rest of this year. So it is my honor to present our next speakers, our next two speakers. So as elected officials, they understand the importance of serving their community and being responsive to their constituent needs. However, not all elected officials are prepared to deal with the climate change and natural disasters due to wildfires and flooding that both were tasked with. Both were tasked with undertaking complex responses and recovery efforts requiring collaboration and funding from various levels of government, including local, state, and federal. Both demonstrated extreme leadership in moments of crisis that require them to stay calm during times of insurmountable human and environmental impacts due to the climate change. Both met the moment with bravery, courage, and compassion. So now it is my honor to introduce, and this is a brief bio because the bios are very extensive, District 2 Supervisor Glenn Church, a fourth-generation North Monterey County resident that was born in Salinas in 1959 and grew up in the Elkhorn Royal Oaks area. Glenn had the privilege of learning what a supervisor does firsthand from his father, Warren Church, who represented the area during his tenure as North County Supervisor from 1965 to 1977. From a young age, Glenn often accompanied his father on the campaign trail and was well as attending, and also attended county meetings, where he learned the importance of local government. As a supervisor, he is committed to serving his constituents through the district in which he is the only supervisorial district with the majority of the unincorporated residents and includes over half of the unincorporated population of Monterey County. Supervisor Church is currently a member of the Monterey County Historical Society, the League of Women Voters, California Christmas Tree Growers Association, the Prunedale and Aromas Granges. His past memberships include the Prunedale Chamber of Commerce, Concerned Citizens of North Monterey County, Springfield Grange, and many more committees regarding local issues. He attended local schools at Elkhorn, Moss Landing, Salinas High, and Hartnell College, go Panthers, where he graduated as valedictorian in 1980. He's also a longtime businessman and farmer. He has worked for himself since the age of 18, establishing a landscape supply company while still in college at UC Santa Cruz, and which he continued to run for more than 40 years. He now lives and manages the same properties that his father and great-grandfather have farmed since the 1920s. Now a choose and cut Christmas tree farm established in the 1950s. So thank you for your leadership and unwavering commitment to the community of Pajaro that were devastated during the floods in March and as part of the atmospheric river events. Now it is also my honor to introduce District 5 Supervisor Mary Adams. Supervisor Adams has led a 30-year career in public service, solving problems for many local families. Elected in 2016 as a 5th District Supervisor of Monterey County, she was called again to serve and lead. During her 14 years as a CEO of the United Way of Monterey County, she helped raise $50 million to provide crucial services for thousands of local people. She worked with the county on many of these same issues, helping homeless children, providing meals for seniors, preventing gang violence, and increasing economic opportunity for our working families. She solved these problems by bringing people together. Under her leadership, United Way launched the 211 hotline, providing free information on local health and human services for working families in 174 different languages in the county. And we thank her for that because that is been such a vital program for our residents. So thank you, Supervisor Adams, for your leadership and unwavering commitment to the residents of District 5 that were impacted by wildfires, mudslides, flooding, and much more. So both have long, distinguished careers in public service, and we are honored to have both of them today to talk about impacts of the atmospheric rivers and climate change. So if you can please help me and welcome Supervisor.
Well, thank you all so much for inviting us to be here today. Glenn and I have shared the microphone more than once, and always enjoy the opportunity to do so, because there are a lot of similarities between our district, District 5, and the district that Glenn represents, District 2. A lot of unincorporated area, a lot of beautiful area, and a lot of area that's really been impacted by climate change. When we talk about the atmospheric rivers and how they impact our county, one of the things to remember is this is the new normal. I believe that was a term that Governor Brown was first to say. When we think about atmospheric rivers, for me, they started in 2017. Honestly, I've never heard the term before, 2017, but that was the year that I first was served. I was sworn in the January of 2017, and it was the beginning of a lot of exciting and dramatic and absolutely devastating change, and I think much of it was due to climate change. But what we wanted to do today is we thought we would just sort of give you a big picture overview for the county around some issues with water. And then I'll go into my side of things for what's happening in District 5. And then Glenn will talk about what's happening in District 2. And then together we will talk about something that we all worry about and that we both experience, and that is wildfires. So just kind of like a big picture thing, one of the things that we acknowledge is that climate change is creating far more severe weather events. As mentioned, the first event that we saw was in 2017, the big fire, the Soberanes fire, and at that time, it was the largest wildfire that had ever hit the state of California. Sadly, it has been dwarfed by many other ones. But the problem that we had after the fire, of course, is the atmospheric river came in, which caused massive flooding. Additionally, it took out so much of Palo Colorado Canyon in the highlands. I mean, it just devastated the roads down there. But in addition to that, in Big Sur, it caused other massive road slides. The road was closed, but then more importantly, there was damage done to the Pfeiffer Canyon Bridge, and that really just was a shot across the bow. It made it very difficult for everyone, because the Highway 1 is not just a tourist route, but it is something that is an economic driver, because people love to come in and drive that iconic road from San Francisco to Los Angeles. It actually connects Mexico and Canada, and to have that bridge go down was really serious. I'm not going to dwell on some of the things that happened after that, but I will when I get later on in my presentation. These are just the big picture things. Another thing I wanted to comment on as far as big picture and the impact on the county, we have some real problems with the dams at Lake Nacimiento and Lake San Antonio. That is going to be a huge cost to the county. The Department of Dam Safety has made it mandatory that we get those dams repaired. Nacimiento is very much like the Oroville Dam, and we've got to fix it before things go even worse. But it's going to be, I think it was like $160 million for us to be able to do that. Do you want to talk about the GSA as far as another big picture for the county?
Sure, I can talk about that. I'll just fill a little bit on the climate change impact that you were addressed here too. As we were watching the video, one thing came to mind in that California naturally has extreme weather patterns, dry and a lot of rain. And so, of course, climate change is just exacerbating that. But to give an idea of what we could be facing in the future, we should really look back about 150 years to 1861, when there was, what really not well known, but there was over 30 days of constant rain. Constant rain, and this, I think I've seen the numbers went from like the end of December into just about the 1st of February. And if you ever go up to Sacramento, you know there's like a underground Sacramento that was area was built on. It's because it flooded during then. And to understand the extent of that rain and what it did is the San Joaquin Valley became just one big lake. You really couldn't cross it. I think there was one path that you go across. And we're already kind of seeing this impact with Tule Lake, which now formed after it's been there. It was there in the 80s for a few years when we had some rains, It's back again now. So you can start to see if we just get deluged with this rain after rain after rain, what could potentially happen. And it would be flooding of magnitudes which I think we just really cannot really comprehend. And that, sadly, is probably going to be in our future to some degree. Also just touching on with San Antonio and Nacimiento, as Mary did. One of the things that we face with is just really filling both of those up equally. There's the repairs that need to be done on both of those dams, as Mary mentioned, and that's about 160 million, and it always ends up costing more than that, it seems. The other, my spotter back there is telling me to put this a little closer, so I apologize. It's always going to cost more than that to do this for the dams. But the unfortunate thing is this last year is Nacimiento filled up, and we were having to release water out of there. San Antonio would still need to be filled. I know it's a little bit controversial. It's another huge chunk of money too, but it's something that takes into consideration is the tunnel that goes between them, which is going to cost about the same too. So there's solutions out here. There's expensive solutions. The GSA, which I was recently appointed to here just a few months ago, I was on the initial interim board back in 2017, and the situation that followed by not getting reappointed is sort of what spurred me on to run for this office years later. I have a long memory when I get slighted. I don't want to get slighted again because there goes 6 years. So anyway, there are a lot of challenges into that. There's one thing I've learned from being involved in the water issues around here, and this applies a lot with the GSA, is that sometimes we're a little too siloed in our views on water. And I think there's enough water in this county for all our needs. And that's one of the great challenges of the GSA. Everybody deserves the water to be sure.
I'm so sorry to interrupt you, but I'm hearing a little bit of whispers around. Can you explain what a GSA is?
Oh, very good point.
Thank you.
That's something you get in government, and when I was not in government, I always said, what do those people mean? They're just using letters. This is the GSA is a groundwater sustainability agency. 2014, 2015, Governor Brown, I think 2014 signed it. I think they signed this, it was known as SIGMA, the legislation that got this going. So each of the areas that have severe groundwater overdraft in a county have a sustainability agency where by 2040 we're supposed to be taking out as much water as is going in, either naturally or through whatever ways we can heighten that. So the GSA here is actually known as the Salinas Valley Basin Groundwater Sustainability Agency. Say that really fast 3 times. And there's one over in the Pajaro area too. It's basically runs from down by where the dams are, all the way up to much of North County, and then over to considering over to the seaside area is also considered by that basin. So you, Mary.
And the reason why we talk about the groundwater sustainability agencies is that if in fact we as communities don't come up with a solution to our groundwater problems, the state comes in and takes it over. So it's an extremely important work that we have that has to be done so that we can maintain control of our own water systems. Moving on a little bit about some of the other issues, one of the things, and moving into solutions, as we talk about the other problems that we have, the other one that we wanted to mention was the Salinas River management. I don't know if you want to talk about that at all. But...
Sure, I can just briefly talk about that. There's been discussion that we're losing a lot of water in the Salinas River. I mean, up to 50,000 acre feet a year because of the overgrowth of vegetation, particularly invasive vegetation, such as the arundo that's there. And what's a challenge in the Salinas River, which is different from the Pajaro River, is in the Pajaro River you have public land right up to, that goes right up to the river there. There's the Army Corps is working on the levees. The Salinas River, it's all private land. So to go and get the permits, traditionally it's been sort of each farmer has been doing that. I will say this is, you know, a good thing. There's been some efforts from various water interests around. The Farm Bureau is doing a good job on this, on trying to get some permits in place so that this can be managed on a regular basis, because we just don't need to lose water that way. This is an easy catch, and I'm no fan of invasive species anyway, so the more we get rid of those, the better.
Thank you. And now I want to get into some of the things that we're doing to address the bigger problems of climate change. One of the things that we as a county did that I think really was a very big help is that we created a new Department of Emergency Management. And that we had just 2 people who were in this department. And it was like, uh-oh, there's a disaster, let's try to do whatever we can. What we've done now, the board has responded to the problems that we saw by starting this new department and by being proactive. We now are ready, due to the efforts on behalf of the people who are working and who head up the program, we are ready now. So if a disaster happens, we're ready to go. We're ready to go right away. There are many other things that go into this. The most important part is the collaboration that exists between the Department of Emergency Management and all of the other department heads within the county. Everybody knows what their piece of the puzzle is to make things happen. So I think that's one of the things that's very basic, but very important that the county has done to acknowledge what are we going to do in this changing time as far as disaster goes. I want to get in a little bit now to some of the specifics within District 5 and the things that we're looking at and the things that we're doing to try to address the problems. One of the things that I think is clearly a beautiful and very important project is a project that many of you have heard of. It's called Carmel River Free. And the FREE stands for something I can never remember. But essentially, it's a program, a big project that includes the Big Sur Land Trust, Monterey County, Monterey Peninsula Regional Parks District, state parks, Monterey County Water Resources Agency, Monterey Peninsula Water Management District, Congressman Panetta, Senator Laird, and Assemblywoman Addis are all involved in helping this project come to fruition. And what this project is, it's a multi-benefit, collaborative, green infrastructure project that will restore the south floodplain of the lower Carmel River. It will construct a causeway over Highway 1 that will reconnect the south arm of the Carmel Lagoon. And it will reduce the flood risk for all of the people in the Mission Fields, the Rio Road, and the Crossroads area. As well as it is opening up another 100 acres for public access and will construct a 23-acre agricultural preserve. This is an amazing project, and it really will change the face of the mouth of the Carmel River in ways that have not been thought of before. So I'm very proud of all of the work, particularly led by the Big Sur Land Trust, that has made this possible. It actually stemmed from a gift from Clint Eastwood and his wife at the time, Maggie, who bought the Odello lands, the Odello artichoke fields that will be used as that additional floodplain. So I think, what was his name, Dirty Harry, or whatever you want to call him, did a really good job here, and I think we owe him a great deal of thanks. Another project that we've been working on are things to address the Carmel River Lagoon and the Upper Carmel River. But primarily, let's talk about the lagoon for a little bit. There has been flooding, and some of you may be impacted by the flooding that has taken place at the lagoon. This is a huge problem, and it's going to continue to be a problem while we seek solutions. This past year, during the atmospheric river, I think actually it was, 22. In 21, we had a mini atmospheric river, but it definitely flooded the houses that were in the lagoon area. The truth of the matter is, it's a floodplain. And if you build in a floodplain, you are subject to being flooded. That does not take away, you know, the feelings that I have in my heart for the people that are going through this, that are suffering through this. We had a project that was set up to address it in 21, including a lot of pumps that we put out, and it just didn't work. You know, it just didn't work. So in 2022, when it became clear we were going to have the same problem, we were on it, on our phones, in our office. I should introduce my chief of staff, Colleen Courtney, who's here as well. In our office, we were on the phone to Public Works saying, check out, have you checked the pumps? Are the pumps working? Well, it's not that bad yet. Not that bad yet is not a good answer. So we were able to at least do some work that made the situation less odious than it had been. The flooding is going to remain more extreme, including rising sea level. The more severe storms we have, the greater the swells. It's a really severe problem. The solutions that we have are not pleasant because essentially the homes could be raised up out of the floodplain, or we could, as a county or a community, purchase the homes that are in the floodplain and restore them to the natural state. But in the meantime, we continue to pump, and that is good. The other side of things on this, forgive me for switching my papers around here, but I just didn't want to forget another project that we have. Some of you who are familiar know what happened at Scenic Road in Carmel this year. You know, it just was eaten away like a big dinosaur taking a bite out of the side of the road. And we were able, on an emergency situation, to go in and quickly repair that. Often it takes as long as it took to repair simply to get the permits. But it was a response, an emergency response, and I was very thankful that we were able to get that road back open for the residents and for visitors alike. The other project that we're working on long-term is called the Scenic Road Protective Structure. And that is, let's take a look at what we've really got going on around Scenic Road and how for the long term are we going to be able to ensure the homes are safe there and the road remains open. So what else do we have? I feel like I'm talking a lot, but it's Glenn's turn almost now. Another area where we have a lot of problems is with the Upper Carmel River, and that is the area around Paso Hondo in the village and Don Pierre Park, Lily Park, right there. We've had a lot of flooding there. And this is what's interesting to me. It flooded in 2017 with the atmospheric rivers. It flooded in 2022, atmospheric rivers, but it didn't flood in 1995. And there are some people who posit that one of the changes, this is like, okay, what changed between 95 and 2017? One of the things that changed is the San Clemente Dam was taken down. So one wonders, and one, you know, it's not been scientifically proven, but it certainly is one of the factors that has gone into seeing the change in that particular area as far as flooding goes. Again, looking at flood management is one of the most important things that we can do. At this point, managing and mitigating before the floods come is the best way we can work to ensure that the severe damage to residents and organizations in the area doesn't happen. The last one I'll talk about, before I turn it over to Glenn again, I wanted to bring to your attention something. It sounds like this is a joke, but it's not. And it is a huge log jam on the Big Sur River. So this is something, I've gone down to see it a couple of times now just to kind of check it out. It is a really big log jam, and we're all concerned because and again, the groups of people that one impacts, I'm trying to see where it is. It impacts state parks. It impacts Caltrans. It impacts the diocese of the Catholic Diocese of Monterey County. Public Works, Community and Health Department, the California Department of Flood and Fish and Wildlife. What we've been doing is just convening through our office and through the county, convening all of the people around this. Senator Laird, Assemblymember Addis, and again Jimmy Panetta have all been helpful in looking at this problem. And when we think of this, how does this log jam happen? right? Well, this is what is a good example of climate change. Massive fires way up in the backcountry of the U.S. Forest Service, up in our beautiful, beautiful forest area. Massive fires. The trees are burned. The rivers, the atmospheric river comes. The logs get washed down. And it's so far up, you know, you don't even realize that this is happening in a massive amount. And so when the river then comes to a particular kind of a turn, the logs can't go through. And so you build up these things that look like, oh, what do they call them when the beavers make these beaver dams? Beaver dam on steroids. That's what it ends up looking like. So at any rate, just to let you know that we are working on that. We need to have better management of the U.S. forests, and then we need to agree to have relationships with the other agencies like Caltrans and state parks as an example. Somebody's got to take ownership of this and manage it, manage how we're going to get this done. We've already been in touch with the big construction company down in that part of the county to that part of the district to see what we're going to be able to do for that. So those were some of the highlights of the big things that go through in our area. The road closures, the landslides, the power outages that we all face. All of those are things that we have to acknowledge we're going to continue to see because of climate change. I know that with the power outages, the county again is really investing in infrastructure in the sense that we have two places where we are doing solar now in the county, over at the Monterey County Sheriff's Department and the big facility that we have called Schilling over in the southern part of the county, or I guess it's the eastern part of the county, to help us be able to capture power so that we're able to rely on something other than simply electricity. So I'm going to leave it at that and give it back over to you.
Thank you, Mary. Margie, am I okay?
Yes.
Want to be clear. So, you know, obviously one of the big issues that I faced just coming into office was the Pajaro River, which we all know about. And just give you a little history onto this is the whole area there in Pajaro Valley, both sides of the county line, you know, is a flood zone. It was flooded every few years ever since we started putting houses in there in the 1800s, the 1900s. And so eventually something in 1949, there's some steps that the Army Corps of Engineers came in and built a levee. They built a levee, thought they had the problem solved. Problem is, and a few years later, 1955, it flooded. Both my parents actually happened to be teachers at Pajaro school at that time, and my two older sisters who were going to school there. So they experienced it, and we had this last flooding. My oldest sister had actually called me and relayed a story about when she was a little girl, what she had experienced in '55, and then it flooded again in '57. And by the '60s, the Army Corps of Engineers had decided, well, I guess it didn't work out. You know, they realized it was a failure, and we had more flooding in the '90s. Nothing was done with that levee, and part of the problem with that levee wasn't built right is they used different standards back then. They used sandy soil. Now they realize you've got to use something a little firmer than that, and that is what is being looked at this point on not just repair but the rebuilding of those levees. Because thanks to a lot of our state and the federal legislators, we actually have the money, $500 million. It looks like it's going to cost to rebuild that levee over the next 10 years, to build it the right way so it is built properly and it's supposed to last for 100 years up to a flood. I hope with climate change coming about that is really going to meet 100 years, but it'll be a much better situation than it is now. One of the problems that had happened has been, Monterey County's been, and I think somewhat unfairly criticized with over the years, is that, well, we didn't maintain the levee. Well, every community pays for what's improvements are being maintained into it. And over the years, money's been raised from both sides of the river, the Santa Cruz and Monterey County side, but you have to realize Watsonville's population of 30,000 with some very vibrant industries. Pajaro's 3,000 with not very much in the industry. And so when you look at what has been talked about, Santa Cruz County's put 15, 18 million into repairs. Monterey County's only put 3 million in. Traditionally, that's been because you just don't have a tax base on there. We realize that policy does not work anymore. And so now what we've done is both sides have put together a, on both sides of the river, both communities, both counties, have put together what's called PERPA, which is the Pajaro Regional Flood Management Agency, which I'm one of the board members on. It is basically taking the money into a pot and splitting it equally. So, that's a fair way to go about it and to do it. And that's what we it's a new agency. It just started to come into being here in the last year. And that's where this, basically we're overseeing this $500 million to rebuild this whole levee system. It's going to be made about 100 feet wider, so it'll be able to take more water. It'll be built a little higher, and it'll be built with the proper materials. Now, in the short term, tomorrow we're going to be holding a press conference with the Army Corps of Engineers along the river, because the Army Corps is getting in this year to repair the 3 major breaches that occurred in the community. One was upstream, which caused the flooding on the Pajaro side. And then there were 2 that were further down, one by the Watsonville wastewater treatment plant, and another one out by the ocean. There are also about 30 or 40 other weak spots, so hopefully we're going to be able to repair on those. But they're going to start repairing those, working on those to get those so that we have, at the very least, back to where we were. And I really think we'll be in a stronger position because these weak spots will be built on a stronger standing. And the Army Corps has also decided to move up from 2025 to 2024 when they're going to start work on the permanent repair. So that'll start next year. So they're a lot more sensitive, a lot more geared here than, this is a new Army Corps of Engineers. It's not your old Army Corps of Engineers. So they need to be commended for that. One of the other things that we have an advantage up on that community, in which I just want to briefly touch upon, is that Monterey County got $20 million here for the community of Pajaro and this year's budget from the state. We were putting together with our Department of Emergency Management that Mary mentioned earlier, a real heavy community-oriented group that will decide how we're going to spend that money, this $20 million. It's not going to be spent on one-time expenses that, which in terms of relief, it's not meant for that. It's meant for building the infrastructure up. It could be things to beautify the community. It could also be raising the homes up so that they aren't going to get flooded. So there's a whole range of things that are going on, but this is, I think, is a really unique approach, unusual in many ways, the way we do things in government. A lot of times it's from top down. This is going to be bottom up, and we're being very closely watching and make sure that these funds are going to be spent the right way for the people in this community. One of the unfortunate jokes that I learned in the campaign last year is, if you've ever been, I don't know, probably most you don't get in Watsonville too much, but in the last 20 years that community has changed dramatically. Its downtown is beautiful. They've built it up. And you go across that bridge, first thing you see is a burned out building that's been there for about 10 years in Pajaro. And there's a little joke among the people, and it's not a good joke, it's a bad joke, of the people in Pajaro, is that they refer to their community, their side of the river, as Little TJ, which is, basically, this is the comparison between San Diego and Tijuana. And that comparison is not inaccurate. So we're gonna change that. I want to touch upon one other little spot that has, I don't think gets enough attention on the flooding. So it affects a smaller amount of people, but they get flooded all the time, even when the rivers of the Salinas and the Pajaro don't flood. And that's the community outside of Salinas, the Bolsonols, where there's a little creek that runs through there called Little Bear or Santa Rita Creek. It's always had some flooding. It goes right through the community of the subdivision into there. But it's really worsened, and it's not worsened just because of the climate change, but because as you go down Salmon Grade Road and you're heading towards the San Bernardino side, what has happened is that 20 or 30 years ago that was grazing land, now it's strawberry fields, and the water just runs off of there. This is also a real mess in terms of getting this creek cleaned, because it's really multi-jurisdictional. It's not just the city of Salinas, the Water Resources Agency, Public Works involved into there, but you also have private, this creek running through some private lands. And then you have state and federal regulations, which, you know, really limits what can be done on cleaning this creek. It's a real challenge. It's probably the hardest nut for me to crack as being a supervisor, because it's a multi-jurisdictional mess, and it's not a really huge community, but it's people that every year suffer. I'm going to just briefly touch upon a little bit on some sea level rise, because I know, that's a concern everywhere, particularly out in my district, in the Moss Landing area, also known as the second harbor in this county. Is you look at the predictions that are coming down here over the next few decades, and it is expected that sea level water will rise, will flood Highway 1. That's going to have to be addressed. That's close to $1 billion to address that. It's going to have to be raised up. There's talk about the flooding coming up right towards Castroville. It's going to have a significant impact on the Elkhorn Slough, and even though the Elkhorn Slough is salt water, just having that influx of water come in has impact on marshland and other things. So there's a real serious concern around there that really needs to be addressed. And I'm going to just kind of walk into a little different issue here on wildfires, which both Mary and I are very, very deeply concerned about within our areas, because before I became a member of the Board of Supervisors, I was the President of the Fire Safety Council for Monterey County as well, and Mary will touch upon some points in her district on that. But if we were to have a fire, two areas in this county where fire could get out of control and affect a large group of people would be from Pebble Beach to Carmel Valley and also North County. I mean, it's bad. You got forest there, you got pine forest there, you got a lot of redwood eucalyptus forests up in northern Monterey County, and you get a situation where there's some bad winds coming in. We're really facing situations that's similar in destruction to what happened in Hawaii or what's happened up in Paradise, California. I do want to just touch upon briefly on that one particular nice thing I'm really glad to have seen come about here this year. It's really I really want to credit Kate from Senator Laird's office and Senator Laird, is that we got $1 million for a pilot project, which we're going to use in North County, which is for wildfire prevention, but specifically for eucalyptus removal. And it's it's a pilot project which we're still working out the details on. What we're looking at is to go through and perhaps have a dimensional space of a couple hundred feet. Defensible space usually is considered up to 100 feet. When you look at eucalyptus and how tall they are, that's not going to do it the job. You have to go back further. So we're looking at going back, maybe doing matching funds. So the property owner, the homeowner wants to have some of those trees removed, we'll match it for what they're going to do. So still working out the details on this, but I'm really hopeful on this. I hope it could be a real step forward. Oh, I'm sorry.
5 more minutes, sorry. I wanted to be discreet.
I think we're about on time.
Thank you, Glenn, for that comment, particularly about the eucalyptus trees. I think anyone who's driven on Carmel Valley Road is aware of the eucalyptus trees that go down Carmel Valley Road and turn the corner and go down Veranda. And, we did a little bit of a survey from my office, because honestly, it came down to like 50% to 50%. 50% of the people want the trees gone, 50% of the people want to protect the trees and keep them there. So it's sort of interesting when you think of what a fire hazard eucalyptus trees really are. But be that as it may, as Glenn had indicated, one of the things that's very serious to both of us is the concern about wildfires. And what we've been able to do, again, some of the solutions that we've come up with, I think it was the year that I came into office, the County Resource Conservation District received funding to hire Jamie Tweetelli Lewis, who is the Forest Health and Wildfire Resilience Program Manager. And he works for the Resource Conservation District of the county. This fire is on his mind at all times. I mean, that's one of the things that he focuses on to ensure that we are prepared. Because it's when, it's not if another fire happens, it's when it happens. One of the things that I want to talk about, however, and I know Amy has faced this and a number of us have, people who have either been threatened of losing their health insurance, their fire insurance, have lost it, or have seen their premiums go from $1,600 a year to $4,800 a year. And one of the things that we are seeing that is very positive, a very positive step, is the organization of Firewise communities. And this started in, actually, it's a nationwide program, but locally it started in Carmel Valley in Robles del Rio with a concerned citizen, a woman named Stacy Woods. And she took it upon herself, this very retiring person, to work with her neighborhood to start a Firewise community. There are now 27 Firewise communities in the county, all based on the beginning work of Stacy, and I'm very, very thankful for her for that. And my understanding is, we took this Colleen and I were just looking at this today, that if a Firewise community is recognized to be in good standing, you are eligible to receive a community level discount on your property owner's insurance. So my hope is that many of us, in fact, I'm going to have a meeting up in my area because I live up near the forest, in the forest, and I want to get my neighbors together to see if we could form a Firewise community, because it's the same problem that we're all facing as far as just the protection. And it's not just, oh, do this because you're going to get a discount on your insurance. Do this for the safety and well-being of your family and your neighborhood. And there are many tips, a lot of good materials that can be that you can access on what you need to do, what you can do to ensure that your neighborhood is a fire-safe neighborhood. The group that Glenn chaired, the Fire Safe Council, is one that also provides tremendous information, and they sort of oversee the Firewise communities, if I'm not mistaken. But I wanted to make one last comment, and I'll give it back to Glenn again, is that at the Carmel Valley Road Advisory Committee, the Carmel Valley Road Advisory Committee is supposed to be charged with just looking at Carmel Valley Road, and that's it. But we have a fabulous committee, and they want to see more. And so we had a meeting a couple of weeks ago with the Carmel Valley Road Advisory Committee, and we talked about evacuation, because it's something that's on everyone's mind. And the problem that we face is exactly what happened in Lahaina. And that is that people are so concerned that if you say, here's the evacuation route for you, and you're, okay, you've got it taped to your refrigerator, oh my God, look, here goes the bell, it's time to evacuate. But the wind has shifted, and if you were to follow that evacuation route, you would be driving directly into the fire. So all of the fire workers, all of the people who are leading our communities in both fire safety as well as fire prevention and fire protection are loath to give us evacuation routes. We are working to ensure, though, that there are options that that at least people will know what some of the options are that they have. No one wants to see a community suffer, as Glenn had mentioned, that we're seeing throughout our country. But going back to the very initial premise of our presentation today, it's the new normal. And with climate change, we're going to continue to see the kinds of fires that have taken place around the country and around the world. Those are mine, and it's your turn. Want to wrap it up?
Just give me 1 minute. And I see you lurking. I just want to hit a little bit on the fire and a couple other points. Out in North County, we have thousands of acres of eucalyptus. It's really bad. And again, I mentioned earlier that I don't like invasive species. This is an invasive species. It's important to realize it destroys our native plants. It doesn't create a habitat for our native, native animals. The only thing that really thrives under them is poison oak, and I don't see a poison oak protection society anywhere. So that's why it has a real significance out there into the community. I also want to really call out and commend the Elkhorn Slough Foundation. They are doing a tremendous job on removing a lot of and it's going to allow the natives to grow back. If you drive along Elkhorn Road now where they have removed them, you have a view of the slough and out towards the bay that is just remarkable. I have, those eucalypts have been there all my life. It is really a nice view. It is really a nice view. The last thing I just want to kind of touch upon, and just in terms of the fire issues on itself, is, and this is on my plate of what I would like to see this county address at some point, and that is, we really don't have a wildfire management plan in this county. You look up into the Sierras and places like Lake Tahoe, they have what's called Lake Tahoe Basin Forest Management Plan. And inside there, they had fire back about 15, 16 years ago, and they responded to it. They set up coordination between their different agencies to streamlining so that if you want to put up a fire-resistant roof, you can get that streamlined through. You can, when there's going to be housing development put in, or if there's going to be, even if there is one already existing, they create fire access and ingress and egress roads that go in the back. So if there's a fire, they can get back there. They do some prescribed burns in the right area. It really is managing, making it healthier forest. It's making it safer. That Caldor fire of a couple of years ago that burned towards there, big reason it stopped as it got near Tahoe is it ran into the work that they were doing. It ran into their, and this is what we need to look at out here. We need to coordinate our efforts throughout this, because fires aren't going away. We have some real high-risk areas that haven't had a fire for a long time. We have areas like Big Sur, which gets burned just every few years. So, I'm hoping we can really set something up.
So anybody have questions? Well, the first hand I saw was Esther. So, and I will ask though, because we have to be out of here in 15 minutes on the dot. So please, not a lot of words around your question. Just be straight with your question.
So thank you for speaking about this. I grew up in Florida, and South Florida is having flooding along the coast, and we've got the fires and everything. So you probably have heard the term climate refugees, right? And so they always tend to be the lower income people. And I'm just curious, in the Pajaro area, people that own homes have homeowners insurance, and they have costs that are covered and things that are helping them. What are the renters and the lower income people, doing to be able to stay alive, and survive in the area now while all of this great new stuff is going to be happening?
Well, and I think in the Pajaro area, I think home ownership, I'm trying to remember the number, is only like 28%. So most of the people there are renters. Now some of them are, there are a few. There's some housing buildings, apartments, complexes. A couple of areas have been put in that low-income housing that are a little more protected out of there. In terms of other homes, it's the landlords don't want to have a home flooded either. So this is, there's been a fair amount of cooperation, I think, on getting those people back into their homes out of there. But I think this is where we have this 20 million. We need to look at doing what exactly you're saying, so we do not have refugees coming from there. We need to be able to have it down. So one of the examples that has been discussed is actually be able to lift some of these homes up, offering the funds to do that. One of the identifying where there's areas. One of the reasons it floods and they're so bad is the railroad tracks fall around there, and it creates a mini dam. Dealing with Union Pacific, they're the worst, frankly. They're the worst. I've already dealt with that. But if there's some way to work with them so the water can flow out better, that would be good. So I think it's a lot of finding the prevention out of that, and then preparing for the worst, because realistically, you can do everything you can to prevent floods, but when you're in a floodplain, sometime it's going to happen.
Other questions? Chris and then George and then Mike. But we keep it, please.
Just, do you see any leadership or movements or statewide to address and change, the way we do zoning that's directly in response to the areas that are most impacted by climate change? So as new developments come in and so forth, but they're being redirected to less hazardous areas?
I'm not aware of any major spokesperson that's taking the lead, but I would think that our Senator John Laird, coming from the background that he has, would be the right person to kind of take that on as an overview in a project. I saw someone over here in the blue sweater have her hand up first.
Oh, okay, go ahead.
Yep, you're up. Yes.
Yes. What about Scotch Broom, Genesta? Is there any plan to do anything about that? It's covering all the hills at the mouth of the valley and further out.
If you talk to my chief of staff here, we will give you Paula Bertuan's telephone number. Paula is a Carmel Valley woman, Rancho Tierra Grande. She is all about getting rid of Genista and has a whole cadre of volunteers that are working on that with her.
This is Colleen. This is
And then George, I think?
Yeah, then George was next.
You started off talking about silos, and then you spent most of the time talking about individual silos. My question, but it's also to the Democratic women, maybe as a program in the future, but also with the two board members, a priority given in the future. How do you get out of the silos into a broader picture about what you do as priorities in terms of what you can do? I'm just concerned that more and more money is going to be spent on taking care of the silos, and then you have not addressed the bigger issue about how you coordinate, how you bring more resources together, how you establish priorities on it.
Well, silos, those who argue silos have valid points, and that's the important thing. You want to bring that in. You want to bring all that in, but you've got to look past that on yourself, and you've got to look at some of the other problems around there. One thing I think Mary tried to address last year when she was chair is to have a water, regional water forum, in which you brought all the parties together that have their silos, because you need to know my silo, I need to understand your silo, if we're going to work together and build solutions. And that's the point. The point is, we're not looking past our own silos. That's what's got to change. Mary, has tried to put us on that step.
And then Mike?
Yes. Mike Clancy, Chair of Monterey County Citizens Climate Lobby, CCL. Thanks so much for this presentation today. It was great. And thanks so much for the work you've done. You're both very well known to CCL, and we really appreciate your work. We're sorry to see Mary going, but Glenn, we're looking forward to working with you in the future. Could you give us a quick update on the status of the Monterey County Climate Action Plan, and in particular plans to replace the Monterey County Sustainability Manager?
Thank you for your question.
Yeah.
It's probably one of the best questions that we've heard, because it's something that is on my mind constantly.
Good.
And I think it's up to us as a board to really start putting the pressure on to get that position filled.
Mm-hmm.
It's always a moving target within the county, and it takes forever to get things done, but particularly in the hiring area.
Yeah.
I know that we have had whatever you call it, when they send out looking for a person to replace Ashley, who was just so great. So unfortunately, I don't have an answer for your question, other than you brought it back to my mind again. And looking at Colleen, we've got to start pressing it again so that we can move forward. Thank you so much, and thanks for the work that you do as well.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
We appreciate it.
Another question? Thank you, Ben. We are actually at perfect time, so we're probably out of here.